2023 is the 50th anniversary for hip-hop, but I felt like I have not done much for the genre on this channel. To help with this, I'm going to review the 1985 movie Krush Groove. Krush Groove was a movie loosely based on the start of Def Jam. It started artists like Run DMC, Sheila E., and in his acting debut, Blair Uppercut. Russell Simmons served as the executive producer since this was his story to tell. This film was significant as this was the second predominantly hip-hop film to release that year. Rapping was the first and it came out earlier that year or the year prior. And like I do with most of these reviews, I'm going to go through the plot and share my thoughts on the film. So without further ado, this is my review of Krush Groove. Before we begin, if you want to see music bios or more good videos like this, hit the subscribe button. And without further ado, on to our feature presentation. Russell Walker is the head of Krush Groove Records and have a wide range of artists. In the beginning, it shows Run DMC recording King of Rock and that becomes a hit. But Russell has a dilemma. Because of King of Rock became a hit, he doesn't have enough money to process the record. Meanwhile, high school students known as the Disco 3 are dissecting a pig. Their class is so boring, the human beatbox decided to make a distraction so they could cut class. Instead of going through the principal office through teachers' orders, they decide to entertain students with their sick rhymes. I guess this is how high school was in 1985. Back with Russell, he asked his dad to loan him $5,000 to buy more records to process, but his dad refused to loan him the money as is against God's will.
Not much.
Not much? How much is not much?
$5,000. Now I know that's a whole lot of money.
$5,000. It was nice seeing you.
And it should also be noted that Run and Russell are brothers. At the Disco Fever, the greatest female drummer of all time is performing, but after performing, Sheila is frustrated that she's still performing at the Disco Fever and desires bigger. She meets Run and commends Sheila on her performance. She also meets Russell and the two get the googly-eyed effect. Meanwhile, the Disco 3 is trying to enter the club, but the bouncer don't let them in as they're underage. But after they spit for the bouncer, he lets them in on one condition: they pay $10. They don't have the money, so they bounce. The next day, Russell and his assistant Rick Rubin tries to get a loan for $5,000 from a loan officer. But that ends in failure when they rap bars from LL Cool J's I Need a Beat.
An insurmountable beat subject of discussion. We can sell records with the aid of percussion. There's no category for this story. We can make lots of money in any territory.
After this setback, Russell goes on a trip to get the money. It will later be revealed that he got the money from a loan shark. The worst people to loan money from because if you don't pay them back, let's just say it'll cost you an arm and a leg. Krush Groove is having a showcase for his artists at another club owned by the real Russell Simmons, and he has Todd Smith working for him. Run DMC show up late, and before performing, Run decides to showcase Sheila E. This does not sit well with Russ and Run, despite the well-received performance from Sheila. Now normally when performances occur, artists tend to lip-sync pre-recorded versions of the record, but in this scene, Run DMC does it live and it captures the full essence of a 1980s hip-hop show. After the show, Russell disses Run for his stunt, but Run ain't trying to hear it. DMC then tells Russ that Run did this to impress him, but instead DMC chooses to diss him.
He felt what he did with Sheila tonight was great, and he wanted you to like him more than anybody else in the world, but you had to diss him. Now everything.
Meanwhile, Sheila hurts Run as he views him as a little brother, fragiling his ego further. But Sheila and Russ connect instead. Run finds out that Russ also turned down a big deal from Galaxy Records, a bigger brand than Krush Groove, adding on to the divide. Back with Krush Groove, they're holding auditions for newer artists, and I just noticed that Andre Harrell is here. Fun fact, he actually worked with Def Jam before building his own brand at Uptown. After the auditions end, Todd Smith barges in and raps about his love for the radio. Back at the Disco Fever, there's a talent show taking place and New Edition have flown all the way to Boston to compete. The Beastie Boy also competes, but I don't know if they're getting booed or cheered. It sounded like a mixture of both. Russ is confronted by the loan shark as he is coming up short on payments. Russ finds out that Run took the deal from Galaxy, and Russ is angry at Run's betrayal. Kool Rock Ski from the Disco 3 bars refuses to perform at the talent show, but the other members egg him on and they go through with it. But despite their great performance, the Disco 3 loses to New Edition. Kurtis Blow gives the boys a reprieve. If they show up backstage to the next talent show and one of the acts don't show up, they could perform. Speaking of Kurtis, He visits Run to inform him that he also was offered a deal from Galaxy Records, but he turned it down out of loyalty. Russ then tells him to take the deal as Krush Groove is going under. And this leads us back to the Disco 3, who decide to take their losing group into an all-you-can-eat buffet, and this is the best scene out of the whole movie. They ate the restaurant out of house and whole, to the point where they're eating processed meat. After dining and dashing, they realize they should change their name from the Disco 3 to the Fat Boys. Russ' mental is breaking down over his artist leaving him, and the loan shark breathing down his neck, until he gets an idea to record Sheila to pay off this debt. Also without Run, Russ could get even closer to Sheila. The talent show takes place and Donnie Simpson tells the organizer that New Edition can't make it as they sign a deal in LA, a funny reference referring to New Edition signing with MCA, which also resides in Los Angeles. The Fat Boys get the opportunity to perform. They desire to come in second place as that prize is a legit stereo system, but instead they come in first and win a record deal. Russ tries to sell Sheila's record, but his efforts is coming up short. Full Force then antagonizes Russ about his debt and kicks his funky ass. After this, Russ goes to Sheila and hide out. Tender Love plays, and you know what this leads to. For Run, life is good, they're making bread, but his bandmates and Kurtis Blow don't feel right that they ditched Russ, and they call out Run for bailing on his family.
I think Kurtis is right. You've been illin' lately, man.
So much illin'. My illin' chillin', you know what I'm saying? Chillin'.
Word up, man. If you could ill out on your family, man, no telling what you could do with us, man.
Man, my illin'.
Run then visits Sheila and finds out what went down. She tells Run that Russ was in trouble with the loan shark, but Run refuses to help and Sheila airs out his selfish behavior. Run then finds Russ getting his funky ass beat by Full Force and Run jumps in to no success. Full Force then tells Russ that these beatings will continue until his payment comes in.
And this is gonna happen every day till Jay gets his money.
After this, both brothers apologize and reconcile. In the end, Russ pays off his debt, and afterwards, all the rappers join in for one final cypher rap. All in all, this is a film for the culture. I feel like when talking about the greatest black films, this gets lost in the shuffle. Yes, this movie doesn't have the best acting or writing, but it has that 80s feel and hip-hop culture that sticks out. So if you haven't watched this film, it's definitely worth the watch. Matter of fact, this film is currently free with ads on YouTube. So after you watch this video, go on YouTube and watch the film. You won't regret it. And on that note, that concludes the Krush Groove review. Tell me what your thoughts in the comments below. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.